Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Carl Fitzpatrick.
Southeast Radio.
Well, Wexford Business Professional Hair Labs was recently honoured at the National Enterprise Awards for its export achievements, and its CEO, Ryan Margolin, joins us now to tell us about this award-winning company. Ryan, we'll be discussing Professional Hair Labs' success at the National Enterprise Awards. But first, I'd like to get an insight into where your love for business came from.
It stems back from when I was a kid, really. Both of my parents, owned their own companies growing up, and it's really the environment that I grew up in. So from a very young age, I've always had a keen interest in, making sure ultimately when it came down to it that, I was able to kind of spread my wings and go on my own journey rather than working for companies, for the rest of my life.
And for those listening this morning that might be considering entering the world of entrepreneurship, what advice have you got for them?
I would say simply the work has to come before the belief. No one's going to pat you on the back. It's a very lone and solo journey for quite some time. So, don't be disheartened by it, but don't be expecting anyone to do you any favors. You just keep going and believe in what you're doing, and don't take no for an answer. You'll have many pitfalls and failures along the way, but ultimately, if you keep going, you'll break through those.
It's solid advice. Now, I want to speak to you next about Professional Hair Labs. Provide us with an insight into the company and your initial involvement with the business.
Yeah, so Professional Hair Labs is a manufacturer of cosmetic bonding adhesives, shampoos, conditioners, scalp treatments. Initially, was targeted towards the hair replacement industry, but more recently we've diversified and developed new systems and products that have brought us deeper into the cosmetic manufacturing space. So what we're offering now, skincare, further hair care products, body care, and custom formulation services. So essentially anything that falls into the cosmetic space, we're able to develop and formulate for companies. We've been in business since 1994. It was my father initially who had started it, Howard. And, through that time, up until when I joined the company in 2009, and then my two brothers subsequently in 2011 and 2012 or 13, I think, company was average. They were averaging, low six figures per year. But as time went on and we started to develop new strategies and look at new markets, we were able to quickly start to scale the company when we realized that, there was products that were available to us that were, that there was they solved a really important problem in the hair loss industry. So over time, we were able to, through the, education of the products, we're able to expand the awareness and ultimately, therefore, our products ended up in more consumer hands.
I'm always interested in speaking to manufacturing businesses to find out how they compete with China.
I could talk for days on that. For us, it's not about competing with China because very quickly we realized that, when our branded product Ghost Bond was ultimately becoming the global leader in the space, the first place the counterfeit started coming from was China. So it was a very, very quick learning curve that we had to engage with to make sure that we were able to minimize the impact that it was having on us. And ultimately, we accepted the fact we're never going to stop it, but through different technologies where we were able to protect our brand and make sure that we were eliminating as much of it as possible.
And in terms of legal protections, have they been of any benefit to you over the years?
Oh, absolutely. To give some advice in terms of IP protection, we kind of focused our core three countries is China, Europe, and the USA. And then obviously through Europe, the WIPO system, we're able to expand it through multiple different countries with single applications. So it makes the process much more effective, cost effective, and time effective. So we've been able to, get our reach into many different countries very quickly, and then deal with the little hurdles that we've had to jump over along the way. From, maybe some countries might not make it as easy to get the trademark. They might come back with some queries. And ultimately, it takes 6 months to a year to get those over the line. But we're able to do it quite effectively now because we've learned the pitfalls that you can fall into along those journeys.
And Professional Hair Labs has expanded across the EU, and I know that you were instrumental in developing a business development and digital strategy for this expansion. How did you approach it, and what strategies proved to be particularly effective?
Yes. So look, our initial success came from the U.S. market, and typically when we had that figured out, we thought, look, we can just replicate the strategies and bring them into Europe. But very quickly, we realized that wasn't the fact. Europe is a completely different market, operates in different ways, different cultures. So we had to really change the way we approach companies. We started to develop some of our marketing material in different languages. Through the use of some translators, we were getting help with communications. And even at some points, look, we were even using translation software to, communicate with a potential distributor or wholesaler. So it was a completely different way of doing business than we were used to. But ultimately, it led us down, a path to secure really good distribution in some European countries. And that ultimately helped us get our products into hair replacement studios and then onto other online platforms.
So in terms of exports, talk to me about your route to market into the different countries in Europe.
Well, the route to market was, once we started to build relationships, it was pretty simple. I mean, look, we have logistics partners, whether it be ground freight, air freight, sea freight. We have all the multiple channels that are available to us. And obviously, depending on the size, sometimes it's more cost effective to send, sea freight. So it really depends on the country, the size of the orders that are going into it. Most of our business is done with DHL because they've evolved their logistics channels so well at this point that they can really accommodate any size of a shipment. They've been instrumental in making sure we can reach countries very simply and quickly without having to jump over a bunch of red tape to get things in via sea.
And in terms of your channels to market, are you using both B2B and B2C?
We're predominantly B2B. Over the years, the industry has developed. We do focus a lot on B2C now, not from a sales perspective, but from an education perspective. So what we're finding is now the education and the B2C focus is actually driving demand for the product.
And what has your experience been of appointing distributors and actually getting them to be active on the ground for you?
Yeah, that's one of the biggest challenges. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to be able to incentivize them, whether it's rebates, whether it's, discounts, whether it's point of sale. Ultimately, what it really comes down to is that when you open up these discussions, one of the key things that really makes them interested is how many clients do you have on the ground that you can actually put into their hands at the get-go? Because that like at the end of the day, they're the ones that are going to have to invest the time. They're the ones that are going to have to invest in the resources to get the brand out to their clientele. So I think the easier you can make it for a distributor, the better. They already have the channels. You just need it to make it attractive enough for them to utilize their channels to put it into their hands.
And how supportive have the state agencies been here in Ireland to support you on your journey?
They've been very supportive. We've gotten, a lot of training, a lot of advice. We've gotten some grant funding for really important equipment expenses that we needed to expand our operations. And it was all made quite simple. So the supports have been great, and they're still ongoing. And we're really looking forward to seeing, how much more the company can develop moving forward with these supports.
Of course, Professional Hair Labs recently won the Best Export Award at the National Enterprise Awards. A big win, but what did this win mean to you and the team?
It meant a lot. I mean, if you think about it, going back to the initial question you have, giving advice for entrepreneurs starting, and, I was saying, the work has to come before the belief. It's, when something like this happens, it was great to be nominated and to just be there on the night. But when you actually win something like that, it's just a metric that shows, the importance of what you're doing and the impact that it's having. I mean, the products that we make are not, they're not just service-based products. They're physical products that actually contribute to somebody's life being changed. Like hair loss is a very intimate thing. So when the team around you sees this and sees the impact and something like this happens, it really motivates people to know that, that they're doing a good thing and they're on a team that's consistently achieving.
And Ryan, what did you learn from the overall awards process and what feedback did you get from the judges?
Well, the feedback from the judges, it wasn't more so, it wasn't as much of the feedback. It was more so the questions that were asked, You could tell from the judges that there was a lot of different, principles there and a lot of different experience. And the questions were absolutely phenomenal. In fact, they triggered a lot of thoughts on our end. We went back to the drawing board and we're like, let's take a look at this question and see what we might be missing here or what, how we can improve here. So I think the overall process was really straightforward, but at the same time, we probably got a lot more from it than they did because they were able to share some of their knowledge through the questions that they had about the company.
And from an employment perspective, how many people are working in Professional Hair Labs currently and across what roles?
So right now, as of today, in the EU side of the business, we have 14 employees. And then on the US side that operates, our distribution facility throughout to supply our products throughout the United States, we have another 15 people there. So, it's a huge growth in terms of where we were 3 years ago. But ultimately, it's just about getting the right people on the team because when you get that momentum, it just naturally builds.
And what's in store for the future growth?
Well, look, for the future growth, I mean, we're looking at, increasing our revenue 20 to 30% each year. And right now, year on year, we've been hitting that. Even through COVID, we had some challenges, but we still hit, our figures and our numbers. We had to pivot a little bit. We weren't really classified as an essential service, so we were faced shutting the doors, and we had to pivot into the manufacturing of hand sanitizer to make sure the door stayed open. So fortunately for us, we thought a little bit outside the box of how we could make sure we were retaining our momentum. So that's the aim for the next few years, 20, 30% each year. We're nurturing the current clients that we have to see what other services and products we can provide to them. And then naturally we're, looking and acquiring more customers through lead generation through our website or media channels.
Well, if you've just tuned in, that was Ryan Margolin from Professional Hair Labs, and I'm certain that they will continue to be an excellent ambassador for County Wexford as they continue to grow internationally.
Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Carl Fitzpatrick.
Southeast.